Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 15th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today went pretty swimmingly. Actually, have a pretty loaded food corner to get into, so hopefully I don't forget all that. But I will say I ran into a little bit of a snag. I'm still a little bit sore. I'm feeling better now, but I don't know. I pulled up some kind of muscle or something in like my upper chest. Once again, I'm working on a different trash compactor. Mashing the trash and I don't know if I've probably mentioned this at least a couple times, but there is a handy dandy tool that I use to kind of mash things down in a let's say safe manner. I feel like it's safe, right? Whatever. So it's a shovel. It's just a shovel, and I don't know, like. There are several tools of the trade that I could use in our warehouse at my disposal. Weird little former broom handle pulls or what have you. This is just the most like useful one that I can like use, the shovel. I don't know why it is, but it just is. It's hard to explain, but if I were gonna try, I would say it's like the surface area of the shovel, like I don't want to say shovel blade, but the shovel itself. There you go. Like it just works for the mashing, and it doesn't like pierce through the cardboard, which is annoying because then I don't get it to actually mash, and now I gotta pull out a whole broom handle thing. It just doesn't work, right? So how I'm doing it, because the way this trash compactor set up is I'm like jackhammering it, and that's really not the right word to use. I wanted to use like more of a masculine word, but really it's like I'm doing a shake weight kind of motion. If you've ever seen the shake weight commercial, except I'm doing it like downward instead of like how they used to do in the infomercials, like in a way fashion. No, I think they had a good up down. I was doing it like that, but it was like high up. That's how I was rocking, and I think I was just working muscles that I just don't normally work, and they feel really bad now, and I don't like that. Like, it feels like someone kicked me in my chest, and I feel it in my back. So that's not fun. But I'll tell you what is fun: food. So let's get into food corner. Food corner. We'll get into what I actually ate today because that was fun and festive. We had like an Asian food day. There's like a big Asian community. I feel like I can say diaspora here. I always like using words, $12 words where I can. But there's a lot of Asian like people in my warehouse. I feel like that's okay to say, right? And that's obviously great. That's awesome. And I like the one little I like it, but at the same time you realize that it's the warehouse or the company, whatever, kind of saying, hey, yeah, you guys can bring your own treats to work and like feed each other, and like sure, we'll cater it a little bit or whatever. And it kind of works out. Like it's almost like a communal symbiosis kind of vibe here. And it's like, wow, my capitalism is like bringing its own pizza into work, but like at least it's good food, you know what I mean? So that is nice. That's a nice thing. So essentially it's just Asian food of a lot of varieties. Gosh, I'll try to go through just some of the stuff I remember eating and inhaling really quick. Also, I never really say this when I do these big food functions and things at my job. I do these things within 15 minutes. I don't know if that's something that is worth mentioning or not. I think sometimes people are surprised at how I eat. They're like, "Wow, that's so crazy that you eat like that." I've just never seen someone do that with their mouth. And I'm always like, "Yeah, sorry or whatever. I hope you like it because I'm gonna do it again." Also, I didn't scam. I just did a one pass. But yeah, so I do this in 15 minutes. But what did I eat? There was several kinds of lo mein. I know I got at least two. There was fried chicken. That was there. I think that might have been a catered thing. I'm not sure. There were some dumplings. There was this thing that was like pancake balls, and they were really sweet. And I got a little slice of that. That was yummy. I like that. Still thinking about that. There was like two types of curry. One had cheese. I had a samosa. There was like sweet and sour chicken. several kinds of rice, and like we got like pretty much all this on one plate. It was pretty impressive. It was really cool. I love when we do this at my job. Not gonna lie. But once again, I did just explain once again, it is us kind of getting our own treats and the job kind of facilitating that, and like and hey, we get to eat. That's nice. Whatever. So yeah, that was cool. Food corner from last night though, I made my little Mexican beef and rice bowl situation. I In a last minute thing, I was like, oh, I still have shrimp. So I like busted out the shrimp out of the freezer. It was literally like a block of shrimp, and I just like chiseled off like I don't know, maybe like six of them things. Threw them on the skillet with the ground beef, and that worked out pretty nice. Yeah, that was yummy. That was good. What else did I have? With some chips, and then the fried tortilla bread, and then the one I put on the skillet. That's just kind of become a norm. I think I said in a previous episode at some point I'm trying to stop it. I'm not. I lied. That was a lie. I'm going to keep doing it. Okay, I'm sorry. It's been a long food corner. It's been a long day. Like, it's been really active. So whatever. Let's do our startup, and then we'll get into some news. It's a lot, at least a little bit bigger episode I feel, but I'll try to do my best to do my condensing as best as I can. I try not to take too much of your time, I know, but at the same time, I do love yapping. Yeah, it's a trap for all of us. But I thank you so much for tuning in. I gotta say that at the top. I know I usually say that at the end, but really love you lots for that. So yeah, let's do our startup. Let's get into this, and then we'll get into that. All right, from the BBC. Okay, and I'm reading this title, but I have things to say after. Israeli protesters block aid trucks destined for Gaza. This might be the last time I say protesters in this context, in this situation, because this isn't protesting. What I'm about to get into is looting and or vandalism. You put in your words here, but I wouldn't say protesters. But for media, whatever, I see a lot of this. They are saying Israeli protesters here, but then we'll get into what they are doing. Israeli vandals blocked aid trucks destined for Gaza on Monday, throwing food packages onto the road and ripping bags of grain open in the occupied West Bank. The lorries, which were set upon at the Tarkumia checkpoint west of Hebron, came from Jordan and were headed to the Gaza Strip, where people are in desperate need of humanitarian aid. We've literally talked about people starving, famine spreading, but yeah, no, for these people, they're like, no, this is a war. Like, they have our hostages, and we're gonna block this, and we're gonna get in the way of this. We're gonna fuck some shit up until they bring our boys back, or they bring our people back. I've once again going back to that war thing. I've heard people in interviews saying, yes, this is a war. Like, and until Hamas is defeated, we are allowed to do this. Like, I feel bad about it, but I don't feel bad about it. It's like, this is inhumane as fuck, dude. Like, I just don't understand how people can make these kind of actions and go to sleep at night being like, oh, I'm defending the hearth, I'm defending home. Like, no, man. Like, this is terrible. This is inhumane shit to be doing. Like, I'm sorry, it's crazy when you have American spokespeople saying like, no, this is looting. Like, that's not good. That's not okay. But meanwhile, I've heard people like Jake Sullivan or whatever being like, no, it's not a genocide though. It's not a genocide though. It's not cool. It's like not a good vibe, but it's not a genocide. That's a crazy big word you're using. So I love that. I fucking love that. Some news here I highlighted. I wanted to say, the incident came on the same day a UN staff member was killed and another injured as he traveled to a hospital in Gaza. I know a little bit, just of kind of going a little bit deeper details in there. They don't know who exactly is responsible for the death of this new UN staff member, but I mean, I don't know. That's an extra detail. Let's see here. what else did I want to pull? I think that's it for this article. But another thing I wanted to talk about that is Israel related from the Associated Press. Biden administration is moving ahead on a new $1 billion arms deal to Israel, congressional aides say. Let's see here. The Biden administration has told key lawmakers it plans to move forward on a new $1 billion sale of arms and ammunition to Israel, 3 congressional aides say. There's a burp. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, that was real and that was raw. It's the first weapons shipment to Israel to be pushed ahead since the administration put another arms transfer consisting of 3,500 bombs of up to 2,000 pounds each on hold this month. The Biden administration, citing concerns for civilian casualties in Gaza, said it paused that bomb transfer to keep Israel from using those particular munitions in its offensive in the crowded southern Gaza city of Rafah. The new package disclosed Tuesday includes about $700 million for tank ammunition, $500 million in tactical vehicles, and $60 million in mortar rounds. The congressional aides said they spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the arms transfer that has not yet been made public. Something that kind of dawned on me, because, I'm a dumbass, I'll say it, but it's reminded, and I wonder if maybe the war hawks or conservatives or whatever are really maybe squawking and piping from this angle of like, no, you cannot withhold sale, or you cannot withhold this aid to them because it is a sale. And that's something that, once again, y'all know I love fucking talking on capitalism, but it's like, of course it's a sale, right? Of course this is an exchange where it's like, we are making money here. So it's like, yeah, we have to facilitate this, Joe. We have to make this happen. What are you fucking doing? You can't fuck up this flow. We don't care who dies. Motherfuckers got to get their bombs. So that's something that kind of dawned on me. It was like, oh, maybe that is a real ass angle that they actually can pull string from. I don't fucking know. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm not surprised to see this, that literally it's like, barely a fucking week after, Biden says, hey, this is too far. This is too much. Y'all got to do something. Of course, that's just fucking talk and show. It's not really anything because, of course, with this other fucking hand, we're like making sure that we get all their other fucking shit that they're going to do what with? Kill people with. Like, there's nothing else that they're going to do with this shit. So it's very frustrating to see this, but I did want to at least talk about it. Put a little dollars to donuts, if you will. I don't even know if I'm using that phrase correctly. I don't care. But yeah, let's keep marching along. We got more Biden talk. Biden v. China. Actually, I'm like America v. China. I don't know. From Reuters. Biden sharply hikes U.S. tariffs on an array of Chinese imports. Let's see here. U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday unveiled steep tariff increases on an array of Chinese imports, including electric vehicles or EV batteries, or electric vehicle batteries, I'm sorry, but we're just going to say EVs are probably in the future, whatever. Computer chips and medical products, risking an election year standoff with Beijing as he woos American voters who give his economic policies low marks. I mean, Biden's getting low marks on everything. Just a little bit. We're going to do maybe a little side talk throughout this shit. But Biden is getting shellacked on polls. And you can argue that polls really don't mean shit. At the end of the day, it's just going to happen on what happens on the election day. And that's really what it is. Who knows? But it's not looking good for old Joe. It's not. And am I surprised? No. We've talked about Joe extensively on this goddamn podcast. Maybe way too much, some might goddamn say. But at the end of the day, to me, it's been so frustrating to cover this guy time and time again, just actively drop the ball and really not give a shit. It's like, yeah, I told you this shit, and when you wanted me for an election, when I was trying to woo you, and now I'm just not going to do it. Now I don't really give a fuck about anything. You know what I mean? Now I'm going to let myself get bowled over by Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, whoever. I don't really give a fuck. Whatever. Y'all know I'm a loser, baby. Whatever. But here we are again. And it's crazy, too, because once again, we have to talk that this is an election year. He's making moves that are so weird. And like I say weird, but at the end of the day, it's weird because it's like you're a Democrat, but you're like doing the same things that like Donald Trump was was doing. And you're supposed to be doing the opposite of that. Yet, weirdly, yet again, you're just weirdly like just an off shade of that man and his policies and his shit. And it's just annoying. It's disappointing. And it's like, yeah, that's supposed to be my fucking guy. I'm supposed to be riding with Biden. It's hard. It's fucking annoying. But let's keep reading. All right, let's read a quote from the man. American workers can outwork and outcompete anyone as long as the competition is fair. But for too long, it hasn't been fair. Biden said in a speech in the White House Rose Garden before unions and companies. We're not going to let China flood our market. Let's see here. China immediately vowed retaliation. Its commerce ministry said Beijing was opposed to the U.S. tariff hikes and would take measures to defend its interests. Biden will keep tariffs put in place by his Republican predecessor Donald Trump while ratcheting up others, including quadrupling of EV duties to over 100% and doubling the duties on semiconductor tariffs to 50%. Like, these are insanely high, and if you're China, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You literally tried to wine and dine us in goddamn San Diego, or wherever the fuck? Like, we went to goddamn California, and you're fucking trying to jerk us off under the table and saying, hey, man, I'm trying to be cool with you, Jack. And then now you're doing this. And now you're trying to fucking, like, make us pay through the nose for fucking EVs and shit. No one is, like, and I get it. I want to say no one's gonna like that, but that's not true. Like, at the end of the day, if you're an American union, this is something that you want to see. This is Biden paying more attention to you than like international companies or whatever. Like, this is something that if you're looking at from a nationalist perspective, this is really fucking good. This is why Trump plays these kind of cards, because it works in his favor to do that shit. But at the end of the day, there are ramifications to that affect us in a negative way. And I'm sure, like, what are you saying? I said, you mash trash all day. You're not an economist. You're right. You're fucking right. I don't know better at the end of the day. But you get my 2 cents for this shit. That's why you come here. At the end of the day, I do not think this is a good idea. It is one of those things where it forces China even more to be like, well, okay, then fine. We will have to make this money up on you for other shit. And you literally come to us more than we come to you for goods. Like, the exchange is very lopsided. There's a trade gap here. And this is something that starts a trade war. But Biden, of course, is saying, no. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just think this is a competition and China is cheating and we're evening the playing field. And it's like, I just do not think this plays out that way when you read it and you're not an American. I just don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm sniffing my own asshole here. I don't know. But it just doesn't play right to me. It plays really stupid to me. But I get it. It's an election year. And if you're an American, you go, what? Yeah, China bad, America good. That sounds great. Thanks, Joe. At least it's something. But you know what also sounds really terrible if you're a Democrat? You get to hear Trump stump on the idea of like, dude, I was saying this shit 4 years ago. Like, what do you mean? This dude's jacking my whole flow. In fact, I would be doing even more, actually. So does this really work in your favor to this moderate that you're trying to appeal to? I don't know. Time's gonna fucking tell. But whatever. I got to say I cover it, and we can move on. All right. From the Associated Press, Slovakia. Whoa. I think I'm Marvel pilled right now. Just scratch that. You didn't hear that. I didn't say I confused a fake place with a real place, and I'm sorry. Slovakia's populist prime minister shot in assassination attempt, shocking Europe before elections. So yeah, assassination attempts are crazy. But it's news, and my little fucking newsy ass. I was like, oh, I gotta cover this. Slovakia's populist prime minister, Robert Fico, was shot multiple times and gravely wounded Wednesday while greeting supporters at an event in an attempted assassination that shocked the small country and reverberated across Europe weeks before an election. Doctors were still fighting for his life several hours after the pro-Russian leader, 59, was hit in the abdomen. Defense Minister Robert Kalina told reporters at the hospital where Fico was being treated. An operation on Fico is not yet complete, said Kalina, who described his condition as extremely serious. 5 shots were fired outside a cultural center in the town of Handlova, nearly 140 kilometers, 85 miles northeast of the capital. Northeast of the capital. Government officials said Fico was shot while attending a meeting of his government in the town of 16,000 that was a center of coal mining. A suspect was in custody, and an initial investigation found a clear political motivation behind the assassination attempt. Interior Minister Matis Sutaj Estok said as he briefed reporters alongside the defense minister. Fico has long been a divisive figure in Slovakia and beyond, but his return to power last year on a pro-Russian, anti-American message led to even greater worries among fellow European members that he would lead his country further from the Western mainstream. Kicking off his 4th term as prime minister, his government halted arms deliveries to Ukraine, and critics worry that he will lead Slovakia, a nation of 5.4 million that belongs to NATO, to abandon its pro-Western course and follow in the footsteps of Hungary populist Prime Minister Viktor Orban. I kind of want to stop right here for a second and just say some weird thoughts that I was having when I was thinking about this shit. And it made me think about Turkey in terms of like, was it Prime Minister or, whatever, Erdogan, and kind of how like he has that whole mentality of playing both sides, right? And how like that works for him. And I've even like lauded him for that. Like that's one of the like things that's almost endearing about him is that he knows that he's like, hey, we are a country that have found ourselves aligned with the West, but also we are definitely still working with the East, or at least, in terms of Russia. And that puts us in a unique perspective, a unique place, right? And then you see Viktor Orban, someone who's doing the exact same kind of fucking thing. And of course, it's like, that's nasty, right? Like, that's something that's very undemocratic, and I don't like it. That's something that go, ooh, boo, tomatoes for that person. And I think in the country, I think the people, or at least there's some people who are, obviously more democratic, more progressive, are like, yeah, we don't like this fucking shit. We don't like this guy. I think you're seeing the same kind of thing play out in Georgia, too, where the parliament is still, moving along with this foreign agent bill that is very Russia-like. And it just kind of has me thinking, it's like, wow, it's crazy that they're doing this. And it's like, wow, the people don't like this shit. Guys like this, this guy from Slovakia or whatever, Fico, like these guys are stinky dudes. They're no good. But at the same time, you can understand that like they're playing the game, right? Like they're playing this whole realpolitik of like, you know what? If I play both sides here, like, oh, I could commit to NATO, this fucking bullshit ass fucking organization that may be more or less a scam. And the people at the top, the US's, the France's, the Germany's, they get to get cool shit. But what happens when, the bell tolls for us? Are they really going to help? Are they really going to be there? It's like, maybe we should actually just play both sides so that way we're not the lowest in the rung and it makes us more valuable. And it's like, oh, and maybe I'm just swimming in the fishbowl here. Maybe these are just really crazy thoughts and someone's just telling me, dude, shut the fuck up. But I don't know. It makes me think that at least, hey, I maybe get the angle a little bit more, but I also get why people are trying to give you that goddamn Reagan vacation, because this is not what people really want to see. And I'm once again, I say this before, I don't advocate these kind of violent activities or whatever. It's bad. Boo, don't do this shit. Because at the end of the day, these things don't have good outcomes. And they don't change the history in the way that you want. More times than not, at least from what I've seen. So, don't do it. Don't do it. But, I get how these people get slotted for these situations, because it's like, yeah, dude, you're doing shit that people don't want for their country. You're pushing the country in a direction that's like, oh, this isn't what we signed up for. We're supposed to be like this, and you're trying to be like that. So, not saying that like, oh, he had it coming, but, anyway. This is just something I definitely was like, oh yeah, I gotta put my 2 cents on that shit for sure. Was there anything else I really wanted to add? I'm actually glad I just added that Georgia shit. That was some side news. I just was like, hey, let me just throw that there. No links, no source. You can go find it. Let's see here. But yeah, I don't know if he's gonna make it. I guess that's important. So yeah, I'll keep you posted. There you go. Yeah. Anyway. All right, we've made it. We have one more thing to cover, and then I can let you go. Oh my god, I realize I don't have water. I just have other things. That's so funny. Well, I'll get that after I close out. That's okay. I'll hydrate for sure. I promise. But yeah, we have one more thing to cover. So last break, and then we'll get into it. Okay. Ooh, 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 ooh. Our last article, story, what have you, comes from the BBC. France prison van attack. Unprecedented manhunt for escaped prisoner. An unprecedented manhunt is taking place in northern France for a prisoner who escaped during a deadly ambush. Mohamed Amra, known as the Fly, was being taken back to jail from a court in Normandy on Tuesday when a car rammed his prison van at a toll booth. Armed men then opened fire on the vehicle, killing two officers and seriously injuring three others. The shooting marks the country's first fatal attack on prison staff for more than 30 years. All means are being used to find these criminals, French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said. Mr. Darmanin told French media on Wednesday that the attack was an act of cold-blooded barbarity and that around 450 gendarmes and police officers have been mobilized in Uri department of Normandy and in an unprecedented search. President Emmanuel Macron has told France that everything is being done to find the perpetrators. Meanwhile, French prison officer unions have called for walkouts at institutions across the country on Wednesday in support of the two who died. Hundreds of staff at prison and detention centers across the country have been staging work to rule protest where they will only perform essential tasks. In a joint statement, the unions demanded urgent measures to improve staff safety, including the drastic reduction of extraditions of prisoners to court hearings by promoting video conferencing and an overhaul to escort levels. So, obviously, y'all know I'm pro union, right? Okay, so let's just say that up top here. So I get it. I get that you're going to use a situation like this to get leverage, and like I'm pro that. I just here's what I'm saying here, right? Because I know institutions like prisons get all the fucking money. They get oodles of the shit, right? And maybe the video conferencing thing, that seems like an amicable thing to work out, I guess, fine. But like, how do you stop a GTA, like a Grand Theft Auto level crime event like this? Like, 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 what do you do? What? I would love the union leader to come and tell me so I can tell y'all, because these motherfuckers came out with long guns and shit, and they just they just fucking they did the shit, and the Fly escaped. Also, I think it's something to say here because they kind of act like this guy was just a low level goon, but at the same time, I'm kind of missing what they had him here for like his sentencing or whatever. Let me get here. Men with long guns got out, joined by other armed men who got out of an Audi vehicle, which was likely following the prison vehicle. They fired several times at two vehicles, killing and injuring officers before, excuse me, leaving the scene and taking Amra with them. Let's see here. I think the vehicles were scorched, or at least found later scorched, potentially. They did talk about the officers. I'm really trying to figure out what was his crime. I mean, I know it was there. Amra was convicted of burglary on May the 10th and had been indicted by prosecutors in Marseille, I think that's how you say it, for a kidnapping that led to a death. So, I mean, in some ways, I'm like, this guy's low-key a heavy hitter, right? Like, you would think that you would give him that kind of discretion. But I think they just kind of underestimated his, like, gang affiliation, right? That this guy was, like, really known. But then I'm also thinking, like, but he had a name, right? Like, we literally just covered yesterday a guy who's like the fucking Scorpion or whatever. So I'm thinking, like, the Fly, like, that's a name, that's a problem. This guy isn't an NPC, right? But then maybe you go, hey, Scorpion, that's a menacing name, right? That's scary. Ooh, spooky. If you're the Fly, well, maybe you're not that bad, right? But let me, one more thing here. According to some French media reports, Amra had tried to escape his prison cell earlier this week by trying to saw the cell bars. So I'm once again gonna put it back on this prison system that is saying, hey, you guys gotta do something. We gotta fucking, like, make some changes. And it's like, maybe you guys should, like, look within, and, like, maybe you guys should have, like, taken this guy a little bit more seriously. Not to blame the victims here, but the victims are, like, literally, like, fully loaded government institutions. So I don't know. Flowers to the family. Don't get me wrong. Condolences, whatever. But yeah, that's the news. There we go. We made it. Let me check. I gotta check the time here. Ooh, we're right on the line. I'm sorry. This is a big one. It's a hefty one on a hump day. But hey, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something or whatever. That's the goal. That's the aim, right? But yeah, let's see. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, throw a little cash my way, toss a coin to your witcher, whatever you want to call it, whatever. Let's see. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on the socials. You can contact me there. I love talking to y'all in little comment threads. I love little DMs. Ooh, give me that shit. Let's see. Subscribe. Hit that like button. Subscribe to my YouTube. Trying to get those numbers up. That's the last place I need to hit 69. Okay? We're sitting at 61. Let's get it 69. Tell your friend. Just subscribe. You don't even have to listen. Just subscribe. Okay? Please. Sharing is caring. Hit the reviews. All the stars if you're not on YouTube. Whatever platform you're listening on, it's all good. I love that shit. If you're flicking your Podbean to me right now, that's so hot. Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.